The performer within Academy Incorporated is proud to present an interview with Black Women Revolt, a domestic violence foundation dedicated to helping Black women in the city of San Francisco, primarily, also within the Bay Area. And we are here with founding executive director of organization, Pamela Tate. Hello, Pam.
Hi, thanks for
How are
having
you?
me.
Thank you for being with us today. So, we are really here to honor the month of Domestic Violence Awareness Month with your organization and getting the word out there and having people contact you all for services and just for partnership and things. So, tell us, how did Black Women Revolt get started?
Well, we have multiple versions because there are three of us. There are two
Okay,
sisters. One is
okay,
Joffrey Morris, one is her sister Lentice Jones, and then there's me.
yeah,
So I like to call it synchronicity.
okay, yes.
There was a rally on the stairs of City Hall
Hmm.
in 19, actually, I guess it would have been 2019, 2019.
2019, okay,
And there was a rally on stairs of City Hall.
yes.
Every year, we light up San Francisco City Hall in purple in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So that particular year, we had Jafria walk out of City Hall where she worked for supervisor as a legal aide. And she walked out and said, "Oh, this is a domestic violence, rally." And she said, "Where are the Black people?"
Mm,
She looked down and saw three Black people. One of them was my former director, Shari Wooldridge. The other one was myself. And I happened to bring a class over from my previous job, Riley Center, where we had just started our DV training. And I said, "Come on up to the rally and you can see all the people who work in DV honor and beginning to acknowledge Domestic Violence Awareness Month." So I
yeah.
had a Black student, myself, and my executive director out on the stairs when Jafria walked out of the building. She was really agitated by the fact that she only saw three people that were Black out on those stairs. And then I, as an audience member, was really irritated because I was like, "Where are the Black people? I brought one. My executive director is the other one. And of course, the mayor being a Black person, but she wasn't out there at the time." And I was like, "That's kind of wild not to have any Black survivors, any Black workers." And it just kind of didn't sit well in my spirit.
Yes.
And so Jafria goes home and has a conversation with her sister, who at the time was running the Bayview YMCA. She was the director of services. And she said, "Girl, they had a whole domestic violence rally out on the stairs of City Hall, and I only saw three Black people." So Lentice said, "That's crazy. Nobody even told us about the rally because we have plenty of clients who come through here who've experienced domestic violence."
Mm,
Flash forward 6 months, and they decide that they're going to do a snippet video, a snippet, I call it. It's a 2-minute video
mhm,
where they talk about Black women
mhm,
and domestic violence and how we've kind of been erased from the picture. The
mm,
statistic at San Francisco only has about 4% of their population is Black, yet San Francisco's police department has recorded 39% of their domestic violence calls involve someone who self-identifies as Black.
okay.
That's a high number.
It's a huge number.
And we were like, "Where are these people? Where are they getting services? Do they know that they can get services? Do they know this is a problem?" So that was what they talked about on the video.
Okay.
The video was released on October 1st, 2020.
Mhm.
And so I, still working at Riley Center, get sent this email with a link from Bev Upton. And I watched the 2-minute clip and I was like, "Oh my God, who are these people? Where are these people? I need to talk to these people. I want to know what they want to do or what are they planning to do around this situation," because I was experiencing the same thing in my workplace.
Okay.
I noticed we have Black women coming to shelter. They would stay for a couple of weeks. They would leave in the middle of the night on their own, or they would get exited,
Mm,
meaning asked to leave. And
mhm,
I was like, if you've left a domestic violence situation, Why are they going back, or what is making them so uncomfortable that they choose to leave shelter? It's not just that they missed a partner. Sometimes it's the rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the case managers that they work with and their lack of sensitivity. Many reasons run, the reasons run the gamut. But at the end of the day, I was like, this is a problem and I want to address it. Excuse me. So I asked my direct supervisor at the time, Mr. Emmanuel, Carrie, if it would be okay if I did something that we did every month called Crucial Conversations. And I said I wanted to invite these two women to come and talk about Black Women Revolt. What
Yes.
inspired them to do this? What was their next plan? How did they see that this was going to work? Who were their partners? Maybe they could solicit partners, but I was highly interested. And so um, Bev got me in contact with the two ladies. They said, yes, they would love to do the Crucial Conversations. And then speaking to Bev, we reached out to Carolyn Russell as well because she was in the video, Carolyn Russell of A Safe Place. And
Yes.
she said, I was asked to just kind of talk because I've been in the movement for a while and as a Black woman who works with Black women who've experienced domestic violence. And we all said, well, the question of the day is, what do you plan to do next? This video is powerful. This
Yeah.
video speaks to a problem that needs to be addressed. And what is the plan? And so the four of us sat down and talked, and they wanted to open a shelter. And they said they had written a grant request for a shelter to DCYF in San Francisco, and nobody even acknowledged that they had written this grant request. And then I said, well, you guys don't have experience per se directly doing direct services with survivors. I said, that's issue number one. So nobody's going to give you money to open a whole shelter if you haven't done some legwork in the city and have a track record, right? I said, so what else were you thinking? Maybe this needs to be something where you develop outreach or some type of a family resource center. And Linty said, that's a good idea. And Jafria said, yeah, and we can, kind of work and maybe see how we can help them with restraining orders or if there's court issues, because she had just completed law school. And I said, that's a really good idea. And then, of course, we all went, there's no money.
Mm.
And we kind of like, okay, well, we can see how we can do resources. They had a website. We developed it out farther because the website just kind of had the video on it. And I said, we can make it where people can ask for services or ask for referrals. So we did that. And then
Awesome.
Bev said, this is really important. And you have really, really raised a really big issue. And she's worked in DV in like 20 years in San Francisco. And she says, but we have a La Casa de las Madres that works with Spanish folk. And we have Asian Women's Shelter who works with Asian families, and they have over 40 dialects, right, of languages, Asian languages that they can reach out and speak to different people from that diaspora. And she said, but you're right, there isn't anything specifically for the highest population experience in domestic violence in San Francisco. And she said, that's really sad. And I said, it is. I said, but the bigger issue is how come nobody's talked about it?
Yeah.
And she said, at the time, we got a new director for Department on the Status of Women, a Black woman. And I said, I wonder if we can reach out to her and she can kind of, give us some footsteps and kind of guide us where we might be able to go to secure some funding if we want to do this. And Bev said, oh, well, let me see. I'm going to make an appointment and call her and tell her, we'd like to talk to her about it. She says, I'm your in to get in to talk to her because I have to work with the leaders there at DOSW. And I said, cool. So the four of us get together. We call Kimberly and she listens. And so I did the pitch because I'm the service provider and Bev is kind of like a leader. And so we had an hour appointment. We talked for about 20 minutes. Now, mind you, COVID has hit now. We're all locked up in our houses. And I started going into the spiel of the things that I observed in shelters and our CO, our community office. And then we talked a little bit more about statistics in San Francisco. And we talked about our whys, and mine was my neighbor's daughter, who was my friend I used to babysit, was killed by her husband, and how that had really impacted me. And Lentice and Jafria explained that their mother had been in domestic violence relationships all their life. Even though they weren't currently living in one, they had witnessed a lot and just knew it was a problem throughout where they grew up, which was Baby Hunter's Point. And Kimberly listened, and I said, well, what we'd like to do is secure funding to start like a family resource center specifically that addresses outreach because the Black community does not know exactly where they can call or go for these types of services because more times than not, they just run to a family member's house and lock the door and don't think about the option of, I need to get out of here. And then they're left having to go home, or either they stay and then they're, physically damaged or harmed to the point where they are disabled permanently or have brain trauma type injuries. And she said, stop. And all four of us, we looked at each other, Bev, Lentice and I, and Jafria, and I was like, well, that's it, right? That's the no. And she said, we are going to find some money. This has to happen. We are going to find some money because this is a needed resource. San Francisco has always been pushing, Black folks out of San Francisco, but the few that are here need to be healthy and need to have safe spaces and know that people care about their physical well-being as well as their mental well-being. And we need a Black facing and Black serving organization to address domestic violence. And the rest is history, or in my words, I like to say her story.
I love it. And that was 5 years ago.
Technically 4.5. That's crazy. It will be 5 in March. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. We've been open as a resource center for 3.5 years now. Yeah.
So it's interesting when you mentioned shelter, that was their initial thought. So my question to you is, are you all looking in the pipeline somewhere down the future to open a shelter?
That is a high scope goal. We just are in the middle of year 3, and year 3 was the year we said we were going to start diversifying funding and trying to really start a campaign to develop reserves and, of course, funding to kind of start going towards doing a shelter. But unfortunately, this budget year has been crazy and our basic needs haven't been covered. So we are doing all kind of outreach and grant searching to just make sure that we stay afloat. And then we will pitch, I guess, the following year and be like, these are the future goals. But right now, we have $500,000 locked up in 3 different grants under one department that the city has frozen at this time.
Frozen. How do
So
you keep going with frozen,
it's
grants,
been
assets?
difficult. It's been difficult. We burned through our reserves. We had 3 months of operating expenses, and then our fiscal sponsor had 3 months of operating expenses if in the event, reimbursements didn't come to them.
Mhm.
December 31st, we will have burnt 6 months of reserves between them and us. So it's been difficult. I spoke before the governance and audit committee for a special hearing this past week, and we learned some things that were disheartening. Like the city auditor said, there's no reason that the funds can't be released because the audit does not contingent upon releasing the funds. But then they have a new interim director who really wants to cross T's and dot I's and refused to give a timeline as to when he thought that they were going to be releasing the funds. The 3 supervisors who sit on that board were adamant that he needed to come up with a timeline. So that was the first hearing. I don't know when the next ones will be, but we'll be there because, people are suffering and, we don't plan to go anywhere.
That's wonderful. We're so happy that you guys are standing. When it comes to helping solely the Black woman, right?
Mhm.
Why do we think it took so long for such an organization, such as Black Women Revolt, to have a seed planted? What took so long?
Ooh, that would be my speculation. So I have opinions, but my opinions may not be facts. But we will start off with the domestic violence movement was started by white women,
Hmm.
a lot of white gay women as well.
Oh,
They were not quick to share power.
mm,
I know there was an internal struggle with Asian workers who worked for a few nonprofits in the Bay Area, and ultimately that is what wound up spinning off and becoming Asian Women's Shelter
mhm.
under the rule of what's it, Becky Masaki. And so there's just been a lack of sharing of power, I believe. I think that's part of it. Also, Black folks, in my experience, and I can say this from my experience with opening this, people really look at you under a microscope to give Black organizations funding. What are you going to do with it? Well, what are your goals? How do you plan to reach those goals? And it's like it's written. And could you be a little more specific? I said, this is the same formula that we use for a grant that I know that we use for a grant in one of my former working places. And you didn't ask them to pare down and get more specific than this.
I was just about to ask you, how do you know just because you all are Black versus they could,
Experience.
hmm?
My personal experiences, right? So I'm like, when you've been in a grant, you see the grant and you know what was written about what your objectives are, what you are supposed to do as the worker.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, well, I know for a fact this was written as what I was to do as a worker. So when I duplicated that, and now you're asking me, well, how do you plan to get that? And how many people do you plan to touch? And how many months is it going to take you to do that? And then where are you going to get those specific people? And what's going to happen if you don't get those people? And then what is your backup plan? It's like, the bigger issue is nobody's got these people. Before you even gave me money, there were no other organizations who got these people. So why is it so stringent now that I'm asking so that I can do outreach to these people?
Do you find it, and I know when you and I were working together and I was your director for the domestic violence shelter that I was the first man to direct.
Mhm. And directed well.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, do you find it challenging as a African American CEO, and why?
Yes. In some veins, and you experience this as a director as well. In some veins, people are in front of you and they're like, oh, this is great. We love the work that you're doing, blah, 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 lip service. And then when I have a term, but I don't want to use that term. I'm trying to think of the correct term. When the tires hit the road, that's a better way to say it. When the tires hit the road,
Mhm.
you're alone a lot of times.
Yes.
Or all of those people who gave the accolades, when you say, hey, I need blank, crickets.
Yeah.
Or you'll find you will have allies, but you are in a group where you should have 30 allies and 5 consistently show up. And I know
Mhm.
those are my 5.
Right. Do you think that's also why we as Black organizations, a lot speaking, Black Women Revolt, the Performer Within Academy Incorporated, we have to, as I have a mantra, build our own tables, build our own stages?
Yes. Our mantra is we are the change we're looking for.
Hmm.
The changes Gandhi said, be the change that you wish to see or something to that effect. But for us, we are literally who we've been looking for. Um, if a Black woman comes into a building and she's disheveled and you say, good morning, sis, and she says, good morning.
Hmm.
She didn't say, I'm not having a good day. I can look at her and tell she's not having a good day.
Yeah. The
Right?
disposition of the body.
Exactly. We have pride about ourselves in the way that we appear. Right?
Yes.
I came on today, excuse me, I'm about to get my hair braided, right? We have
You're
pride in the way
perfect.
that we appear.
You're
Um,
perfect.
and it's decent, right? But it's not my normal look. And
Right.
so I came in, I'm sorry, I'm about to get my hair braided. Um, and so I think about how that runs through the Black diaspora.
Mhm.
Um, People can see when we're disheveled. People can see when we're hurt. People can see when we're angry, which is hence the expression angry Black woman, angry Black man. But nobody ever addresses why.
Mhm.
Nobody ever asks what's going on. They just go, you're not yourself today. Your work performance is off today. You didn't ask, is my kid recovering or asleep now that he fell out or broke an arm last night and we didn't get to bed and I got him home and now my mom is sitting there watching him and I'm at work worried about are they okay because I have to go to work or I don't get paid,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? We
Right.
don't have those conversations in workplaces. And I will say this, and it's something that I am really going out of my way as a CEO and executive to make sure that I check in with my employees
Mhm.
because it's important. Nobody asked me. You did, but other people would be like, she looks stressed. Oh, don't go talk to her today. Like I'm unapproachable. How
Mhm.
about saying what's going on with you? And at the time, I remember, you were my heartbeat, literally, when my mom got diagnosed with cancer. It was just like, and people would go, oh, she looks like she's having a rough day. Well, how about how are you today? I'm sorry I heard about your mom. Is there anything I can do for you today? Or, I just thought about you. I grabbed a cup of tea, right? We're human.
I know.
And I think it's important that we all, acknowledge people come into work from their home. And it's not that I need to know everybody's business and I don't want to know it and everybody don't need to tell me it and I'm not telling everybody mine either. But we just need to acknowledge people as human.
And it's funny when you just said we come into the work from our home, and speaking of someone who started an organization, well, really both of us, I think sometimes we do the things that we do because we're tired of how we're treated
Mhm.
within the corporate world, especially from HR a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because, especially like you said, when I supervised you, I mean, it was like this, it was a great whirlwind. And I think that I know that sometimes we're on the hamster wheel of go, go, go. That's why I have a question. For the Performer Within Academy Incorporated, we have started a meditation, relaxation, mantra, and also program. So I have a question from one CEO to you as a CEO. How do you relax? What are your relaxation techniques?
Ooh, the first thing I do, which I just found out it drives my son crazy because I wasn't aware, my dog knows when I'm home before I come in the house.
Oh,
So I
okay.
sat in the garage for 30 minutes and I would just kind of debrief with myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
what did I forget to do? I take a note and say, I forgot to do this. I need to do that tomorrow. I breathe and go, okay, I'm going to go in the house now. What am I fixing for dinner? And then I just breathe and I go, okay, now I can get up and go upstairs. The dog's at the door by then. And then my son was like, he's been barking for 20 minutes. He knew you were downstairs. And I was like, I don't hear him barking. He said, he's been driving me crazy for 20 minutes. He's been barking. So now I am driving and I get around my house and then I'll pull in the parking lot, not in my garage, but in the parking lot. And I keep the same ritual. If it's a particularly rough day, I
Mm-hmm.
will not come straight home. I go to the beach. When I worked in San Francisco and lived in San Francisco, I went to the beach every day. I'd sit there for 30 minutes and I loved it towards the fall and when we got towards the winter months because I get to see the sun go down,
Yes.
which was also relaxing. But just breathing and kind of being unto myself and shaking off whatever happens in the workplace and come home so that I can acknowledge and rest in my home because that's important not to carry all of the baggage from work into your home.
That's awesome. Good practices.
Yeah.
Good practices. Where do you see Black women revolt in the next 5 years?
We are shifting. I am now the sole executive director. Thank you. I
Congratulations.
was a co-director, and so the operations kind of fell onto me. But with this tight budget year, I am battling to get my grants fulfilled. I am grant writing. I am overseeing staff. We are transitioning to a new fiscal sponsor and trying to secure who that's going to be.
Mhm.
Um, we are expanding programs. Our Youth Advisory Council is really, really taking off. We have 3 schools now from SFUSD who have asked us to come in and talk to their students, their middle school and high school students, about healthy relationships in the curriculum that we're working on and developed. And
Wonderful.
um, we are headed to 2 college campuses for a series of workshops as well, San Francisco State and Cal State East Bay. And it just literally fell into our lap. We worked with a young woman who was murdered by her partner earlier in the year. And we offered support to the Navigation Center where she had been staying in their staff and we call them the kids, the Tay youth that lived there with her. And she was a student at San Francisco State. And ironically enough, they planned a memorial service when we were doing a DV 101 training on that same night. And some
Mhm.
of the girls who had helped plan the DB 101 said they wanted to go to the memorial service. And we were like, well, do you want us to cancel and we can reschedule? And they were like, no. And we were like, well, actually, we already have a staff member who was going to be at the memorial service because she was downstairs and the person who was doing the presentation was upstairs. They said, why don't you all go downstairs for the memorial? At the end of the memorial, we can come upstairs and do the DB 101 training. And it worked out really well. It wound up being four sororities with the sisters from those sororities who came and they said they wanted more. And we came back to school for orientation week to just kind of like talk about Red Week and making sure they knew what resources were available and make sure they were pairing up with each other and not going off with people alone. And they invited us to come back in and do a series on healthy relationships and what does that look like. And so we're really excited. First group starts in November at San Francisco State, and then they'll be at Cal State East Bay in February.
That's beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations
And
on
you know,
everything.
yeah, and you know, I love prevention work. I was trying to do prevention work when we were at Riley Center and there was no budget for it.
I
Um,
know.
and now the grant that we currently have allows us to work with Tay-aged youth. And
Mhm.
so that's that transitional age and college students and in different spaces and LGBTQ corners, as well as just kids who are in transition, as well as college students. And so we're going to expand that work, but that would take care of 2 years from now. In years 3, 4, and 5 from now,
Mhm.
I hope that we are still pushing towards getting some funding for transitional housing and or permanent type housing.
Mhm.
Prop A passed in San Francisco this past year, and there are funds available. And so almost anything that I'm talking about, I'm hitting home that there are only 77 shelter beds in San Francisco for domestic violence survivors, and we need more. And
Mhm.
Black Women Revolt wants to be one of the organizations running those. We need more
Even
beds. Yeah.
even though you all work and your primary basis is in the city of San Francisco, do you all partner or do you think of partnering with other organizations that are in the East Bay or, maybe Southern California as well? Just a thought.
We do. We are part of the Cultural Responsive Domestic Violence Network, so CRDVN. And
Okay.
so we do have some partners around the state. We work with Gen Cs, our youth departments work together. We have been talking with um, EOYC. I think you came from there as one of those organizations. We just started speaking with them because they asked for a little bit of assistance this week. So we are thinking that we would like to do that, but our funding currently restricts us to work in San Francisco.
Yes.
So that's the only reason why we haven't had larger partnerships. Our grant for Cal OES is running out in December. I mean, that was how
Okay.
we were able to kind of maneuver different college spaces because it was paid under that grant. But now we have a free space at San Francisco State and a free space to use at Cal State East Bay. So those
Mhm.
partnerships are great, and we don't have to pay to rent a room since it's a
Mhm.
room on campus. It's just us providing the man time, and they're paid to go do that anyway. So we're gonna keep it going.
That's
Yeah,
good. Congratulations.
thank you.
Oh, I love it. And what work are you doing with East Oakland Youth Development Center, EOYDC? Are you going to get some Tay youth from them?
Possibly right now, they're asking for some staff development around domestic violence. And then they
Mhm.
did say that they have some interest in folks doing healthy relationships. And literally, that was this week. So I'm looking forward to hearing back from them and meeting with them and setting up our MOU because, if somebody wants to do some prevention work, we are 150% down. Because, I used to always say it's great to have places and spaces for people to go after harm, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's better to, not put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound when you can simply, put a Band-Aid over a scratch.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
true. It's so true. This is so amazing. You and I have been working together, and my goodness, graduate
Right.
school together. It's been almost 16 years we've been knowing each other, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yep.
Wow. Time flies.
It does. It does.
It's so wonderful to do this interview with you. The Performer Within Academy Incorporated thanks you so much for this time in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We would also like to ask you please let the viewers know how can we get in contact with Pamela Tate and with Black Women Revolt.
Most definitely. Our website is www.blackwomenrevolt.org, and I am Pam at Black Women Revolt. That's my email address is the Pam at Black Women Revolt. The website is blackwomenrevolt.org. And we are extremely excited about the performer within as well, because children need to have exposure to the arts. And, arts can help with mental well-being. And so we certainly look forward to seeing the great things that you have coming up in the fall concert and all the other things that are to come.
Thank you. Yes, the concert. It is officially December 21st at the Paul Drescher Studio in West Oakland, California, 7 p.m. I'm really excited about that. Thank you so very much. And I also wanted to just make mention that we have to always take care of ourselves within this work, because this work, it's going to continue even when we are transitioned to other things.
Yeah.
So I just want to always offer our services to anything that you are doing in terms of the relaxation and mental health component.
Yes.
Because I will always envision Emmanuel working with Pamela.
I love it. Looking forward to it again.
I love it. Bless you. I thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.